never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some dizzies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys, Miss Liz in the house, and I have the incredible Nichole Lee in the back, and we're going to be talking about her tea today. And her tea is master your inner world and you will master your outer world. That is the tea that we are serving tonight, this afternoon on Tea Time. I want to get everybody over to all the platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, all of those good platforms, TikTok, YouTube. Give those a like, follow, and subscribe, and get these tea times out there because they do make a difference for the guest and for the listening audience out there who may resonate with these topics. So let's get started with disclaimer and then an intro, and then we're going to get Nichole in here and we're going to spill some tea together. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or check my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Miss Liz welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where stories are shared with intention and every conversation reminds us that healing and growth are possible, even through life's most difficult chapters. Today's guest understands what it means to face life-changing transitions and finds the courage to rebuild from within. Please join me in welcoming Nichole Lee, founder of Nichole Lee Global. Nichole's journey has been shaped by profound personal loss, grief, and the kind of life shifts that force us to pause and re-examine everything we thought we knew about ourselves. Through her work today, she supports others navigating their own transitions, helping people rediscover their strengths, reconnect with their purpose, and move forward with clarity and compassion. Her message reminds us that while grief and change can shake the foundation of our lives, building and the courage it takes to rediscover yourself after life has changed the path. And let me get Nichole in here and let's spill some tea.
Hey, Miss Liz.
Hi, dear. Well, welcome to Tea Time, Nichole.
Thank you so much for having me and such a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Nichole, let's get into your tea and who you are, but we're going to start with the first rabbit hole of Miss Liz. Who was Nichole as a little girl and who is Nichole now?
Oh my gosh, little Nichole Little Nikki, as I will call myself, was bold, outspoken, adventurous, and a little leader. I mean, she and a little Miss Know It All, and so not much has changed. I think the difference is through my learning is to recognize that sometimes leading is actually to be behind the scenes, right? But I think I'm very much the same. It's so funny. I posted maybe last year a picture of myself, and people have known me a majority of my life are like, oh my gosh, it's still the same Nick. So that's how I would describe it. I think I've just, I will say this too, because we're talking about tea and healing. I had some insecurities as a child that have bubbled up as an adult through my healing process. So I've healed a little bit of little Nikki, you know, who was sometimes felt outcasted by being a little bold and a little outspoken. So I'll just add that too. So we've healed a few of little Nikki's wounds along the way.
Well, Nikki, let's get into your tea because you gave me the tea. Master your inner world, and you will master the outer world.
Yes.
Why'd you give me that for your tea?
Because, you know, as I've gone on my personal journey and then doing this work, I recognize that so many things that catch us up, you know, we've heard about limiting beliefs and these things, but those belief systems typically came from outside of us. Right. The narratives and stories that shaped us, the experiences that we've had, especially when we were children, before we could control our environment, before we could control those who were taking care of us or were influencing us, shaped us, you know. And so when we allow ourselves to go inside, we start to redefine what home looks like to us, what safety looks like to us, what success looks like to us, what our own authenticity looks like to us. And when you start to master that, when you understand what is at the root of who you are, how you want to show up, and the courage and clarity to do that, then the outside world doesn't have the same level of influence and control over you. Right. So that's why I shared that, because many times when we think about what we're going through, there's usually some external thing happening, right? Someone said something to me. I experienced something, even when I was driving or just out in the world. And oftentimes, too, we have a society, as you know, Miss Liz, that kind of conditions us for that. Right. When we think about standards of beauty or, you know, just simple things of what we need, a lot of that is external influences that we're not realizing is impacting our decision making.
Absolutely.
And our behaviors.
So, Nikki, can I call you Little Nikki or Big Nikki?
I see you grabbed onto that. I think you saw Little Nikki when I was talking because your whole face changed. I'm like, yes.
I was like talking to the little ones, right?
And that playful side of me is still there. So we can roll with it.
Well, Nikki, what changed your life? What was the moment that changed it?
Yeah, I mean, the most profound change of how I even got into this work and we're able to have this beautiful conversation is my beautiful, vivacious, exciting, outspoken, amazing, beautiful mother. We look very much alike. So I'm kind of giving myself a little compliment there too. But my mom was diagnosed with cancer in May of 2018, and she died September 22nd of 2018. So this was a person who was vivacious, you know, lively, all the things. And I got a call the week after Mother's Day to rush home. My mother didn't know what was going on. She was getting fluid in her body. And the next week she was diagnosed. And I took care of her through that entire process. And I'm grateful that I had the gift of being able to do that and the privilege of doing that. But you can imagine with so many people who are probably listening and experience it, it changed me, right? Not only from a grief perspective, but what happened from that is I started questioning my life. I started questioning who I really was. You know, I had made an amazing life, successful on paper, but was it really fulfilling me? And was it really what I wanted to do? And then I really had that conversation with myself. If I was dying, would I have been pleased with the life that I created? And the answer was no, right? The answer was I didn't know who I really was. I didn't know what real fulfillment was because I never really gave my time space to really look at that. And yeah, I was like, if I was dying, I wouldn't be happy, right, with what I've left in the world or what I was doing. And so that took me on a path. That took me on a path of my own self discovery of healing. That took me on a path of really understanding more than what, again, the world had presented to me. That led to, in the midst of COVID, leaving my 20-year career successful. I always put the quotes because, again, it's what was defined externally as success. That led me, and I believe my mother came to me in a divine message and told me to quit my job. And so I went on this searching, seeking and healing that brought me to recognizing that my gift to the world and to humanity is to help others heal. And very similarly, sometimes people ask me why the high performers. Well, that was the person I was. That's the person that I anchored into. And so I recognize that those are the people that I mostly draw in as well to serve, because oftentimes we're sometimes missed in the process because you've been resilient and driven. And so you may even get overlooked in your grief. And that's what happened to me, especially in the career space. People didn't recognize that that was grief that was happening to me when I returned back to work.
So we have a question here for you, Nichole. It's, what patterns do you see most often with high performers face identity shifts?
Yeah, it does depend on each person, as we know. One of the things I do see with the identity shifts is a major identity collapse, though, because a lot of times, so we can even visualize that, right? That identity, if it's been built, especially around your job or, this, sometimes when I work with athletes, they've been doing that for so long that when that is removed or taken away, or a decision to transition, it's a collapse. And you can imagine visually what that happens. You're high, and then all of a sudden you go to a deep low. And so that's a major one I see. And just like I said with my situation, is who am I? Who am I outside of this role, this job, this money, the car, the things? And that's where the collapse happens. Right. And so that's where sometimes the depth or the significance or the impact of the grief can be intense. The other thing that I see too is oftentimes they're the individuals that have carried things forward, that have been the strong ones, the ones that people typically rely on. So this whole feeling of not being held or seen or having the same outlet that they've offered has also been one of the things that I've seen quite often. If I fall apart, who holds me, but who else holds everyone else I've been holding?
Exactly.
Yeah. So those are a few that come just as I'm thinking about it in this moment.
So we have a couple more questions that are coming in. So I'm going to get those up to you. If you could answer them for me, Nichole. What inspired Nichole to shift from corporate consulting to spiritual coaching?
Yes. Thank you so much, Kevin, for that question. And that definitely came from, as I mentioned, the experience that I had with my mom and deciding to leave. Through my self-discovery, I recognized that the corporate world and the consulting that I was very good at was not actually tied to what I believe was my divine assignment. And so this often happens too with high performers. You're really good at something. Everybody reinforces that, celebrates that, and you just keep going. I was on autopilot, right? I was good at it. I was getting paid for it. I was being recognized for it. When I had the opportunity to really reflect on, and it's so beautiful that you asked about little Nikki. Little Nikki loved to love people. Little Nikki was always giving advice and thoughts and perspectives. Little Nikki has always been super sensitive and empathetic, right, to people's feelings. And so as I realized, that's what I had to offer. And the spiritual coaching aspect came because many times too, around that, who am I? It typically is connected to something in purpose and meaning and something greater than myself. right? So many times with spiritual coaching, it's different than religion, right? It's less about a construct and it's more about this essence of being a human in the world. And what does it mean of what I'm here to offer to the world? And what does that mean to connect to something greater than myself, as well as what I'm offering, but also listening to that inner wisdom. Again, going back home inside, what does that message or voice look like outside of all the other distractions or voices I've been listening to?
Absolutely. And spiritual coaching is not just a spiritual journey, right? It's so much deeper.
Yes.
So thank you for answering that. The
Thank
next
you.
question we have for you, Nichole, is how can someone recognize when it's time for a life reinvention?
Beautiful question. Thank you, Bradley. I would say just similarly this, and I like to get to like simplicity, because sometimes if it's too overwhelming, complex, we don't keep going through discovery. I would ask a simple question. Does this feel aligned? Does my life feel aligned? Does it feel freeing? So a lot of the work I do, as you know, is around liberation. Typically asking someone, here's all the things you're doing. Does it feel free? Do you feel free in that? Do you feel joy in that? Do you feel excited about that? Does it feel aligned? Usually that's an opportunity to reinvent, reevaluate something that's going on that seems disconnected, or is now you're shifting into something so it feels no longer the direction you want to go. But I think simplicity in questions around, and what I'll say is the curiosity. So this isn't around judgment. And many times high performing individuals got to where they were because we took more of a critical lens to our success,
Absolutely.
right? So this is a shift from, it's not the right or wrong or the perfection or the checklist. Let me be curious. I'm sitting here talking with Miss Liz. Does this feel aligned? Does this feel good to me? Yes, then I want to keep doing that. And I think this is something too, from doing these types of interviews, there's been times that I've realized that how I presented myself didn't feel aligned. That was an opportunity for me to rediscover and kind of reinvent how I was presenting myself. That's just a simple way, right? Again, I think simplicity is a beautiful way to start, because when things feel too complex, we often retreat. Right? We retract back to our old ways.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that rediscover and redesign. There's so much in life that sometimes we just have to look in that mirror and say, like, am I really comfortable with this?
Yes.
Do I really feel this right now? Am I aligned with this? Like you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
We need to have more conversations like this, heart-to-heart conversations that, educate through life experience.
Yes.
And that. We have another question here for you, Nichole. What are the first signs that our inner world needs healing?
That's a beautiful question. Thank you. I hope that's Amy. I hope I pronounced that correct. Again, I think some of the things we've already mentioned. One of the things that I also consider is also how we look at the word healing. If we look at if we've had a wound, right, a physical wound, each wound may need a different type of support to heal. So the reason why I say that is oftentimes your first signs, maybe something feels uncomfortable, maybe feels painful, maybe feels, again, out of alignment, or oftentimes from a somatics or body perspective, getting more in tune with your body and feeling that something is creating a bit of agitation or activation is usually a signal that there's something that desires to be healed or held or heard. Right. And so that's one way to potentially consider it.
I like that you talk about healing, because a lot of people think of healing as just therapy, right?
Right.
There's so many different avenues and branches to healing. So I'm really glad that you're talking about this.
And it's an action, it's a verb, right? So it's constant action. And again, that's why I mentioned the different wounds. You've bumped an elbow, and how you heal that versus a broken leg or, another wound. And that's the part I think about the discovery piece that you were just mentioning. It's not an absolute. Maybe one wound does need or desire a type of therapy, right? I remember meeting someone that it really stuck with me. It was less about therapy and it being therapeutic. So what do you feel is therapeutic to help you on your healing journey? And sometimes that could be music. Sometimes that could be connection with others. Sometimes that could be being in nature. But that's the beauty of creating your own toolkit, right? In a sense, that helps you through any season.
So, Nichole, we have this question for you. How do you guide leaders through identity shifts during big transitions?
Thank you so much for that question, Clyde. How I help guide leaders through their identity shifts is oftentimes the first place we start is I ask, where haven't you felt seen? Again, what I've experienced is when we don't feel seen, we don't feel safe. And when we don't feel safe, our mind and bodies aren't open to truly explore what's happening in a shift. That's different for everyone, right? Because our definition of feeling sane and safe is different. The other part around that is that then I am very big on what I say, going to the root versus the fruit. The shift is the fruit. The root is what's causing that shift. What's under that shift? What's under the discomfort, right? And many times there are belief systems. There could be trauma or wounds that are still open. There are cultural elements, traditional elements that will influence perhaps how your process goes or where you may be activated or triggered. And I like to use either word because some people that the word trigger just feels very uncomfortable. So even just being activated, that something needs to shift. But that's usually where I start because, again, I think there's an assumption that leaders or high performers have an awareness of what's going on inside of them. But many times we've been taught to be outside of ourselves. So a lot of the work is embodying, reconnecting with self so that you can start seeing what's happening. Because the shift is not, again, just an external shift. It's a shift internally, biologically, emotionally, and physically, and often spiritually.
You know, I liked the way that you're sharing this because activate,
you.
over, trigger. You know, we hear these hard words and then we remove ourselves.
Yes.
Right? Instead of healing and moving towards the wound, we run from it.
Yes.
Because it hurts. It's uncomfortable. But using different words opens up different ways of healing and connecting.
Yes. And I love that you said that because that's one of the big things that I learned about myself and that I help others with. Again, we've been conditioned to use certain language. One thing is recognizing how that language feels. So if you, for example, with my clients, many are used to homework. They work with coaches like, what's my homework? I said, how does homework feel? It does not feel.
Who wants to do homework, right?
The body gets tight and rigid. We remember when we were little kids and we had the homework assignment, or, you know, if you're a high performer, especially in a corporate space, you're always writing emails and you're in meetings and everything. So what we don't want to do is use language that feels restrictive and contractive, or it takes you back into the judgment space. Now you're doing, am I going to do the homework perfectly? Right? Am I going to get the assignment right? So oftentimes I say, what would feel good? Right? It might be your life design. Yeah. It might be your curiosity list. It might be my adventure to rediscovering myself. That feels different. I have a client that we were like, how am I adding color to my life? Because things have been so black and white or gray. So that's one thing I would say for anyone. If the language that you've been using is creating something that doesn't feel aligned or feel good, what is other language that does? Because then it tells the body that I want more of that, right? It's like eating a meal and someone forcing you to eat the Brussels.
Like cherries. I hate cherries.
Okay. So I'm like, you know what, Miss Liz, we're just going to keep eating cherries. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't want the cherries. Okay. Well, what do you want? I want a plum. Right? Or whatever your fruit is, right? So how do we, again, that's where we help the body recognize in a positive way that we're moving into something different. And even though it's unfamiliar, we can use language that feels more in resonance with us.
We have a question here, and it says, how can grief become a path towards personal transformation?
Ooh, Sam. Well, my story is a prime example. I think the thing too that we recognize is that we often, just like my situation, we put a lot of emphasis and understanding around grief as it relates to a loss of a loved one, and I'm grateful that that is an area that we focus on. However, what really helped me recognize and work through my grief was recognizing all the other things I had grieved, right? There was a loss of identity. There was a loss when I left my career, what that meant around those pieces. And so if we allow ourselves to look at all of our losses and understanding how all different types of loss, the loss of the job, the loss of a connection, the loss of someone who's still alive because maybe the relationship has changed, and allowing ourselves to better understand and feel what's going on inside of us, then we can start to discover, as we allow ourselves to heal, what is for me, right? How is this working to transform what's available to me? And the reason why I say that too, Liz, is there's a lot of language around this didn't happen to me, it happened for me. I respect those who say that. I will say this though, in my experience and with my clients, what has been helpful is acknowledging something did happen first, right? That something did happen to me, or a circumstance that did happen to me. However, by allowing myself to be seen and acknowledging that, then through my healing process, can I look for the meaning, the purpose, and the transformation that this may afford me. Me first losing my mother, there was no personal transformation opportunity. I was devastated. So if someone would have told me this isn't happening to you, it's happening for you, you might have gotten a few exclusives. Okay. Right.
You might have got to the head.
You might have got the other Nikki. Okay. The Nikki that would have all the little squigglies about what's coming out of my mouth. Right. So I just want to share that because I hope that helps someone feel seen, because I think the intentions are good. But again, if we are not allowing ourselves and others a container and space to work through that, to process that, to then just bypass it to get to meaning and purpose, that's where I see people suffering. Because now you're like, I need to find the meaning for this. I need to find, where it's going to transform me. When you haven't allowed yourself to grieve, to navigate the wounds that need healed, that need time, that need attention, that need care.
Well, one word that you said that really stands out for me is acknowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledging is a big way of understanding what someone is going through.
Yes.
Instead of saying, oh, it's not that bad, or, this had to happen, or you'll be better, or they're no longer in pain. There's so many things that we don't need to hear, and that we need to just be acknowledged that we're hurting at that time.
Yes. And Liz, I love that you shared that, because we know that the intentions are good. I think the piece that you're also sharing is being mindful and being aware. Again, the way our brains and bodies work, we'll just be on autopilot, and we're not realizing what we're saying and how it could impact another person. The other thing too, particularly around our culture, particularly in the westernized way, we intellectualize everything. And we forget about the actual feeling of the thing. So I can know that my mother's in a better place. That doesn't change how I feel. Right? I can know that relationship wasn't good for me, but that doesn't change how I feel. And biochemically, our body goes through a pain and reward oscillation process. It is seeing the pain, but wanting the pleasure or reward that we felt. So that's why we can go back and forth. We can know, but we can also still feel the pain of it. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I'm grateful that you brought that up, because I think the reason why sometimes we do say those things, or people say those things, because we focus so much on the intellectual side of things. Yeah. That makes sense, right? But that does not change the feeling.
Exactly.
Yes. Right? The emotions are just as important.
A question we have here is, how can high performers slow down and reconnect with themselves?
Oh, Jeffrey. I think we all need to slow down more, right? One of the quick things that I find, because again, high performers will often say, I don't have time. Right. Or they have time for the things they've already listed. And if you're a biohacker, right, you're doing your cold plunges and your saunas and all these things. What I always say is you may not have 60 minutes, but you have 60 seconds.
Ooh.
Most people, because I love negotiating and bargaining with people, right? So when I ask, you have 60 seconds, they're like, yes. One simple thing you can do that is so powerful, because we're talking about feelings, and I'll share with the heart. The heart is actually your regulator. Your heart actually speaks more to your brain and body than vice versa. They work together. So one simple hack that I give for any high performer is to do breaths that go through your heart. It's called heart focused breathing. You can close your eyes. You can put your hands over your chest. You begin to breathe deeply in inhale and exhale. And then you just feel and breathe through your heart. And you feel the balance between your heart and your thoughts, your thoughts and your emotions. And then I invite you to consider one thing you're grateful for. And just feel that energy flowing through your body for, say, 1 or 2 minutes. That's one easy way to reconnect to yourself. The other interesting fact is when we close our eyes, we cut off 80% of the stimuli that has us going in other places. So if you're a high performer and say you're getting ready for a meeting and you're trying to think of all the things, I invite you to close your eyes, take that deep breath. It allows you to go back into yourself. Our eyes are beautiful, but they scan everything. And the world that we live in, we scan even more because we're in unfamiliar places with unfamiliar people. So we're actually in a more heightened state than we traditionally would be, because we're not in a lot of familiarity just in our typical environment.
You know, life has really changed a lot for us in society, in systems, in programmings, in a lot of stuff, right? Our brains are on go all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And
All the time.
It gets exhausting, right? And I feel that that's where the increase of depression has come in, and mental health and stuff like that, because we're never pausing ourselves. We're never giving ourselves that 60 seconds. I love that you said 60 seconds over 60 minutes, because 60 seconds, close your eyes, just pause. And that's what I like to do with Teatime, is just pause. Just pause and enjoy the conversation. Have a cup of tea and just listen.
That's why I had to get my tea. But yes, I mean, simple things. A thing that you just mentioned too. I do. One of my clients was similar. I was like, "What's your 5 minutes of fabulous?" She decided to get up 5 minutes earlier to make her cup of coffee and just sit and look out and look at the birds. Five extra minutes. Game changer. So again, sometimes there's all the things, but sometimes the simplicity of just to your point, listening to a song that you enjoy that's 2 minutes long. Taking that pause is powerful. The pause is powerful. So I love that you said that, Liz, because there are these small things that make very big impacts in our life.
Absolutely. We have a question here for you. What was the biggest lesson Nichole learned during her own transition?
The biggest lesson that I learned is the greatest gift that I can offer to the world is learning who I truly am and showing up as that as much as I can, as much as possible. It has been such a powerful and emotional experience to recognize that me living in what I believe is my truth makes an impact. I don't have to say anything. Just me living and showing up in the world has changed people's lives. And that's the greatest gift that I could ever offer. And that is the lesson I learned. And I hope that anyone who takes this away, that's where part of doing this work is so powerful. You never realize how many people are just looking at you, observing you, and admiring the things that you're doing, right? The way that you're showing up, the risk that you took. And so I invite you to consider that beyond yourself and just the impact and legacy you make being a living legacy. What you're doing, Liz, is a prime example. right? The container that you created is transformational because you're being you and you curated something. So I just thank you for that. But yeah, I think that's the greatest lesson I learned. And that's why I say how we started with the inner world, right? Me going back inside. And again, I love that you go back to little Nikki. That's one way for people. I just thought about it, right? You were like, how to connect. What are those things that the little you really enjoyed? The things that just came naturally that people maybe joked about, that really is your superpower. Me being super sensitive, me being analytical and adventurous, all of those things are serving me in the work that I do, right? Because I said, this is me. Yeah. I'm not throwing that away. I am bringing it in. And how do I use that as my superpower to not only serve myself, but humanity?
And I like it because you said little Nikki is big Nikki.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't change. And that's why I always ask that question. Who were you guys as a child? Because as adults, our little inner child is coming with us to the adulthood. For sure. Whether we want to hide it or not, it's coming in there, right? So the sensitive, super sensitive, and, you know, outspoken, that's just a little Nikki saying, you know what, big Nikki still wants to be little Nikki.
Exactly. And I love it. And Liz, this is so powerful because, you know, we hear a lot around inner child healing and people go through those processes. What I found, and I love that you're doing this as well, is the simplicity. So sometimes in the healing world, it can feel so overwhelming and we're trying to figure out the terms, right? Like you mentioned, just sitting and saying, what is something that big Nikki would love to share with little Nikki now, right? I've gone through that exercise. Like all of that was worth it, right? And then little Nikki reminds me that she's there, that I can be playful, that I can be fun, that I can be all of these things. And one quick exercise that you can do as well is, again, closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, seeing your little self come forward with your big self, and having them come together and give each other a hug. When I tell you the power of that, Liz, because many times what you just mentioned is the little side of ourselves might be hiding, may not feel safe coming in, may have needed to hear something. Oftentimes you hear, you know, how did you want to be parented? But what did you just want to hear? We don't even have to put the language of parenting. What did you want to hear? Tell them now. Yeah. I wanted to hear that it was cool to be this way. So I told little Nikki, that was awesome. Remember how you were? And little Nikki said, and I want you to keep showing up as that. Don't lose your spark. Don't lose being silly and funny and dancing in the middle of a store, because I will do it, honey.
I don't do it
too. dancing in the gym, right? All the things, again, the outside world. You're too old for that. Yeah. Honey, I'm 48 and I'll still be dancing when I'm 88 in the middle of somebody's Walmart.
Absolutely. Okay. If there's a good song on, I'm jigging and I'm shopping. Like,
yes, like you're gonna, because again, I was like, oh, who defined these things? Some other human defined what you should be. And that's the beauty now that's happening, right? People are disrupting these constructs. Like, who are you to tell me what I can wear and how I can show up? Who are you to do that? So that's one thing, again, that I invite someone to take away and see how it makes you feel, to bring those two together and hug or skip or dance or whatever that visualization looks like for you, a high five, whatever that looks like. And I'd love to hear from you if you do that. Absolutely. What it did for you.
Go into Walmart and start dancing, guys. Have some fun.
Or Target, you know. And sometimes now with all of the security cameras, I'll just wave. Because there's somebody who might look at that film or be
Big Brother's always watching, guys.
And that's the thing. They're always, so you know what? I think someone's, you know, there's things on Instagram, people do that. It's like, people are watching anyway. People have an opinion anyway. Why not live your best life?
Right.
People aren't going to be satisfied with whatever you do. There's always going to be someone who isn't going to like it. So you might as well live in that full being. However, what I will say is going through the self-discovery to sense and feel that it is you, because people say be your authentic self, but have you actually discovered what authenticity is for you? If you haven't, go on that journey.
Absolutely. We have questions coming in, so I want to get them out to you so we can get them answered. Okay. The next one we have here is, how can people overcome fear when reinventing their lives?
That's a beautiful question. Thank you. Fear, what I say is fear is your friend. So again, oftentimes we hear language, which again, I honor everyone's perspective. My perspective is that didn't work for me to say I'm fearless, right? I know that my body has a mechanism that is telling me when something feels uncomfortable or unsafe. So what I went through, and I often work with my clients, I said, what if you saw fear as your friend? What if you saw fear as the person that's closest to you, that knows all the things about you, that's coming up because they know that you've gone through similar situations and it was uncomfortable or it was unsafe or it was painful? What would you say to that friend? 9 times out of 10, the person says, but you're not that person anymore. You have help. You have support. You're ready. You did the work. So I invite you to have a conversation with your fear, not to resist or try to override it. That is where I found that then people are co-creating their own experience to say, okay, now I'm ready. The second part is, again, incremental steps. Oftentimes, too, as high performers, because you've been doing sprints in 100 miles an hour because you've gotten to that point, this may be unique and unfamiliar. You didn't learn how to speak your language overnight. You learned the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. So oftentimes, or in another language, your os and your base. And so over time, just taking, what's that one step? What's the one step that we can take today that makes you get on that progressive path? Right? We see the vision of where you want to go. But again, anyone who plans for a marathon, anyone who goes to the Olympics, they didn't train for one day. So we have to look at this reinvention very similarly, or I invite you to look at it the same way.
Well, the next question we have for you is, what mindset shifts helps people embrace change more easily?
Yeah, so I appreciate that question too. What I will say too is it is mindset and heart set. Oftentimes our minds will know, and again, that's where I'll go back to the intellectual part. We will know we want to change. We will know the environment we're in doesn't serve us once we go through that inquiry. The piece, though, is better understanding the feeling, better understanding what we just talked about, the fear, and better understanding, again, what's at the root of that resistance. When we do that, then we can get to more of a solution-focused path of what we do next. Again, I'm very big on taking a step back and let's look at what happened before this experience, because often, as we know, there are those wounds or the hidden places that we haven't given ourselves the opportunity or luxury to reflect on and sit with.
And the next one we have for you, Nichole, is, what are common struggles leaders face during personal transformation?
Yeah, so some of the common struggles, again, I would say with their transformation or shift is, again, identity. For the most part, any change that we're going through is based on something we've had familiar that is no longer, going into the unfamiliar or the unknown. And that struggle of the unknown, especially when you're used to a predictability, is where there can be resistance, that challenge. The identity piece, again, is this is what I've created. Who will I be in this other world? Right? The third part, too, that we often forget is the relationships that are impacted as a result of our transformations. So me wanting to change, but also recognizing that could change everyone around me, that can be very difficult and be a struggle of why many people stay in the same place. Better understanding how to work through that, having the language, the communication to be able to go through that process. But that's a loss in itself as well that we have to work through and understand the grief of our transformation. Every change has an element of loss. It's just the intensity that is aligned to that either propels us forward or we take a step back. And that's what we're really wanting to get to. This struggle, what is underneath it, right? Again, a lot of things we go through are symptomatic. They're the outward facing, but there's typically something underneath that is keeping us in a pause or struggle or in a stuck state.
Nichole, how do you feel about this question? Because I really like this question that's coming up next. How important is community support during life transitions?
Oh, Maria, is so important. It is so important. And one thing I will say too is oftentimes in the environments that we've been in, we're not evaluating what a nourishing community looks like to us. That word has been used so much that there's a difference between a group and community,
Yeah.
right? So you might be part of a lot of groups, but what does communing mean to you? What is the nourishment or the support that you're desiring? And that is so important too, because if you aren't thoughtful and intentional, you can be around a lot of people who aren't helping you, whether that's from an accountability perspective or holding space. So, yes, it's really important. I invite you, though, very similarly, to become curious and connect with what you feel you need. What are you looking in expectation, and perhaps what you're willing to offer, to then seek out or realign with the communities that you're already in.
A lot of alignment. You know,
Yes,
I always tell everybody
yes.
just alignment,
So
right?
important.
If it doesn't align, just leave it. Leave the
Yeah.
table. Leave the
Yes.
group.
Yes. And too, Liz, this is weird too. I always go back, recognizing there might be a little grief, right? Because again, with a life transition, again, I'll use the example from a corporate perspective. If you've had an identity, say as a VP or just even a corporate infrastructure as I was, what my community was in many of those places did serve me, right? The corporate community. One of the things that took me some time is some of those people, we just aren't going to be in the same resonance or relatability. And that can be hard because I love Liz, but like what we are able to talk about has changed. So I'm going to acknowledge that, accept that, and then identify what I need in this space, and then be able to transition into that space. Because that's the thing with life transitions. And I almost think of it as like seasons, right? The leaves oftentimes fall off the tree. Sometimes people fall off in our lives because we're going into a new season and we're blooming something different. And giving ourselves that time and space to recognize that is important.
I like it. Transitions are like seasons. And you know,
Yeah.
spring is coming. So there's new
Yeah.
blooms, new seeds, new growth, new changes.
Growth. Yes. And you're blooming something different, right? And so you're no longer a cherry tree, right?
I hate cherries. Anybody that knows Miss Liz knows I do not like my grandchildren even know that. They're like, Nanny, don't. My grandkids are like, Nanny, you don't like cherries? I was like, no, they're gross.
So we're
eat
making
them,
sure Liz doesn't show up in a cherry lovers convention.
I will come, but I will not eat the cherry. The next question we have for you, Nichole, is what message would you give someone standing at a major life crossroad today?
Yeah, I would give what message would I give them? Allow yourself, if you have the capacity to do so, the space to reflect on what that major crossroad looks like to you. Again, we've talked about it quite a bit, where there's often a lot of resistance, a lot of challenge, a lot of overwhelm, is we have not been conditioned and reinforced to pause, to give ourselves time and space. And so when you are at a crossroads and you've been moving again 100 miles an hour, the greatest message I would give you is if you can carve out even a day or a weekend and allow yourself to sit with what that looks like. What does that crossroad look like? Even looking at what you feel are the trade-offs, because again, any transition we make, there is a trade-off. We can have grief and gratitude. We can be excited and still feel that we're losing something. So I also offer that. What are the trade-offs? Me going into this new life means that this maybe have to be let go or shift. How does that feel? And then again, it feeds nicely in what we were talking about. Then what do I need in this new space? Do I need a coach or a therapist or a friend that has the capacity or capability to help me kind of think through what this crossroad looks like? Because the other thing I'll say, oftentimes we haven't considered what I call, and I just mentioned the 2 C's. Does the person have capacity and capability? Oftentimes, Liz, we may go into places and we're asking for advice from someone who might have the capacity, they can hold space, but they may not be capable to support you in moving forward or getting clarity. The other flip side happens, someone's highly capable, but they're busy. They can't hold space for you. They can't fully be present. And that can be activating or triggering. So I always invite individuals to consider the person that you're connecting to, asking for support and assistance, ensuring they have the capacity and capability to do so.
You know, I'm getting a lot from this conversation, and I got a lot of notes down here. So we're going to have a lot of good feedbacks and food for thoughts for everybody once it is uploaded, because we want the conversation to continue. Like, I want these tea times to continue. So when you're joining tea time and you're asking your questions and you have other questions once we're done the lives, reach out, connect with my guest. Nichole, I want to get into some fun stuff now.
Okay.
Let's get into your colors, because when I asked you your favorite colors, you actually gave me 3 colors. Yeah. So you gave me pink,
yes,
turquoise, and gold.
Yes.
So which energy are you today out of those 3 colors?
I think I am pink. I'm going to go with the pink. Yes. It's interesting because because you have on a pink top, right?
I'm wearing the colors that you gave me.
So I noticed, I was like, wait a minute, look at you, you're so intentional. Yeah, like my heart is just, oftentimes in the, healing world, we look at pink as tied to love, the heart, and so I'm just grateful. I'm filled with that type of loving joy. So I would say pink today.
And I actually like those 3 colors together because they make a nice, beautiful painting.
Oh, thank you.
Like when you blend those 3 colors together, the turquoise, the pink, and the gold, it's like a beautiful marble.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was why I had to look up, because I was like, I wanted to actually swirl them. So see, look at you with your psychic abilities, because I was like, can I just say it's a swirl? Is that a color?
It's like the little marbles we used to play, right, when we were kids. Now we're giving our ages away.
Gosh. I was like, she's making me choke. I don't like it. But I chose.
Nichole, reinvention requires more blank.
The word that came to me was compassion.
Ooh.
I think in general, we need to create a world that has more compassion. And if we aren't compassionate even with ourselves and others, and again, that goes to being seen, heard, validated, all these things, it's very challenging to move forward. That's when the judge comes in and just chops up everything, right? And so reinvention needs more compassion. Be compassionate with yourself. Give yourself the time and space. Allow yourself the tears. We were talking about tears, right? Crying. Allow yourself the ebbs and flows, because that's important. And sometimes that may be allowing yourself something that was never given to you or you never afforded yourself. And that can be a bit challenging, but that's the word that came to me.
And one belief you had to release to grow.
That I had to conform to a certain construct to live the life that I wanted. Yeah. I could go on, but I think you kind of get right. Like all the belief systems about, again, whether it's success or acceptance or all these things, that was the biggest thing. Because I've had so much joy, so much peace, so much fulfillment by releasing those in my life.
And we hold on to so many beliefs that the systems and services and society gives us, right? That we're just like, can we really let it go?
Yeah. And because we're creatures of habit, that's why I say, like, the disruptor part, I'd accept I'm a positive disruptor. And a lot of times you don't even hear that. You're a positive disruptor. You're saying, hey, we're going to come together, connect. We're going to have these conversations. You're going to be you. That is necessary because we're naturally creatures of habit, tradition. If we aren't checking in on if that serves us and humanity and where we are, we will stay stuck. Right. And so we have to allow ourselves to be comfortable with questioning and curiosity again, and not judgment, but I'm curious, does that really work for us now? Is that law from 1842, is it really serving us? Probably not.
Let it
Right.
go.
And taking the emotional, because again, we get attached, right? There's this attachment, this internalized attachment. And I think that's the opportunity too, is releasing some of the attachments we have based on the belief and what it means to other people that allow us to free ourselves of that. Right. I can agree or disagree. That doesn't mean I'm disrespecting you. And I think that's the key, right? I can say that's not my belief. And again, you even on our session, right? I said, I acknowledge that may work for other people. I'm not here to tell you that it doesn't work. I'm just here to tell you it didn't work for me. And it may not work for people that I work with. And I think that's our opportunity to allow people to have their experiences, but respect that there's differences.
Right. And there's different perspectives. That's why that's in the disclaimer right at the beginning. You know,
exactly.
we can have a clean conversation and a clean debate. We don't have to agree. Yes. We can care to disagree, you know, but have a nice, clean conversation. Yep. So you gave me the word unicorn to describe yourself. So yes. What does being a unicorn mean in your personal journey?
It means accepting that in a society, again, where some of the things we talked about, I will be seen as different. Right. I will not blend in. I think many people have probably seen on the internet at some point where they have all the zebras, right? The black and white zebras. And then there's the one with all the colors, right? Or even people have been considered black sheep. We've looked at that as a negative thing, right? But really, the black sheep is standing out in a different way. And so the unicorn, to me, just the symbolism of it is the unique, the mysticism, the connection, the divine, but also just recognizing that I will be different. And that's part of my job.
I like
just who I am.
I love when people are different and you're not inside your boxes. Get out of your boxes.
Yes, get out of your boxes. And guess what? Somebody else created the darn box. And if you create the box, that means it's even easier for you to tear it down or repaint it. But yeah, I just love the and I just love unicorns. I love the coloring. But yeah, that's really what it is this unique little being walking through. I say I'm a unicorn on skates because, you know, you could probably tell by my personality, Liz.
Roller skates or skates?
I probably should have been a dancer or something because, yeah, I'm living my best life.
I can see you in the roller skates in Walmart jigging away with your unicorn.
We might have to get that. And if I end up doing it, Liz, you're going to be the first person I tag on social media. And I'm going to say thank you to Liz for allowing this other side of me to come out.
So Nichole, what is your final message and how can people reach out to you and what services do you offer?
Yes. My final message is allow yourself to explore. Give yourself permission to rediscover, to explore, to find new things, new exciting elements in your life, whether you're 5 or 105 or maybe 155, right? It's never too late. It's probably the core. Now that I think about it, that's the real message. It's never too late. And I can be reached. Thank you so much for your intentionality, Liz. There's my website. I can be reached through there. And my socials are also available on there. I'm mostly on LinkedIn and Instagram and soon to be on YouTube.
There we go. See, she's coming to you guys on YouTube. So for all you YouTube watchers today, give her a follow, give her a subscribe, because that's how we do it, right? Community. We support one another in this house. So when Nichole's YouTube comes, give it a good click subscribe and continue to support her, support my guests. So I just want to give you a shout out to all of the viewers that joined us today and asked your questions. Without your questions, we cannot make this show what it is today. To all the viewers that are on the other platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, all of those good platforms, thank you as well for tuning in today. I'm just going to do a wrap up and we'll see everybody next week. Tonight's tea time has been rescheduled. What a powerful and heartfelt conversation. Nichole, thank you for sharing your journey and for reminding us that even when life breaks our plans, it does not break our ability to rebuild. Your story shows that grief and transformation often walks hand in hand, and that healing begins the moment we allow ourselves to feel, reflect, and move forward at our own pace. Tonight, this afternoon, we were reminded that change is not the end of the story. It is often the beginning of a new chapter we never imagined writing. And here is something to carry with you after this tea time. When life shifts in ways we cannot control, we still have the power to decide who we can become through it. To everyone listening, may you leave this conversation with a little more compassion for yourself and a little bit more courage to trust the journey you are on. Until our next cup, keep sharing, keep choosing growth, keep choosing hope, and keep believing that new beginnings are always possible. And I'll see everybody next week, and we'll do this all over again.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Nichole.